in good time.
Oh, hi, Stuart.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening, Stuart. So we're right on time, 7 o'clock. We do have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. with acknowledgement that we respect Indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we are meeting today. And we'll have a motion on the adoption agenda with the following, and it'll be the updated agenda as posted on the RDCK website with the addition of old business of items to be considered at future Slocan Valley Services Committee meeting. And those items are on the September 7th meeting, September 3rd meeting notes. And we'll have to change the order to add the old business on there. And the order will be as follows. Old business will be item number 8. And number 9 to be public time. Number 10, next meeting. Number 11, adjournment. And I'll just read those items that have to be considered under item. Let me just take a look. What item was that? Under item number
8.
Old business. And they are as follows. And I'll read that basically rather than going back to the minutes of September meeting. I'll read this out so people are aware of it, or directors are aware of it. The following items are provided for convenience only and will be considered at its appropriate meeting as stated. Future Slocan Valley Service Committee meetings. 1, staff to prepare an information report on what tools can be used to increase the budget of Service 2008, Ski Hill, Summit Lake, Area K, Area H, New Denver, Silverton, and Nakusp. Number 2, staff to prioritize the services of Summit Lake Ski Hill, the cemetery, and the TV Society for the November meeting. Staff to add economic development to the agenda in 1 year's time to be prepared for the Community Futures Agreement to expire in 2 years. Staff to add CAOs for Silverton, New Denver, and Nakusp when we are dealing with the Summit Hill only to the distribution list for the Slocan Valley Services Committee. So with that and the update and what I've mentioned, I'd entertain a motion and a seconder. Director Casely?
I'll make the motion, Walter.
Yeah, Director Casely makes the motion.
Len will second.
And Director Lund seconds it. All in favor? And only directors get to vote on it. Okay, so Jessica, I see hands.
Yes.
In favor, yeah.
Okay. Moved, seconded, and adopted. And we'll go on to receipt of the minutes. They're on page 5, page 9 of the agenda. And the minutes don't need a motion. They have been received. We have no delegates. And as I mentioned before, there is a change in the order. I'd like to move item 6.2 in front of 6.1, and that'll give Paris the opportunity to do her presentation and then go home. Otherwise, we might take a while to go through the draft budgets. So Paris, you're on.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I'm just going to share my screen.
Excuse me. I have a motion to give freedom of the floor to Silverton Mayor Tanya Gordon and Councillors Clarence Denbach and Brian Mills.
Thank you. So do I have a seconder to that motion?
Director Len will second.
We have a second. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Carried. So, councillors, you have freedom of the floor, and Mayor. Go ahead, Paris.
Thank you very much, Chair Popoff, through the chair. So, and thank you very much for this opportunity to present some information about the Slocan Lake and River Partnership. The following slides provide some information about the purpose of the partnership, who, when, and what in terms of really the background of how we've come to this place today, and the development of the terms of reference and the process that's led us here. There were some questions about working with residents and how we'll be engaging with residents, and so I'll speak a little bit to that. And then our upcoming work, and then also speak about, or also have some information on questions that were already circulated, and if there's time, and at the discretion of the chair, discussion. So this is taken directly from the terms of reference, but just as a summary or as a reminder to everybody, the Slocan Lake and River Partnership is intended to promote sustainable management, conservation, protection of both the lake and river, and as articulated by the steering committee, up into the watershed as well. So thinking about the tributaries. It's a partnership. There's two entities within the partnership, both the steering committee, which brings together governments, and then there's the technical advisory committee, which includes the stewardship groups. The intent of the partnership is to create guidance documents, beginning with foreshore inventory mapping and then creating shoreline guidance documents. And that beginning with Slocan Lake, there is an intent to support the EDPA, so the environmental DPA, for a 30-meter area past Slocan Lake as an interface zone between in the riparian area. There, as I mentioned, there's two entities that sit at the table. The invitation is to these two entities. And so the steering committee, currently we have Sinaiks Confederacy that sits there, also Silks Okanagan Nation, RDCK Area H, and then we have an invitation out, and part of our reason for being here this evening is to the villages of Slocan, Silverton, and New Denver. And we also have an invitation to the province of BC in terms of their involvement, and also Government of Canada, likely DFO. Myself as RDCK staff and Sangeeta Sudan have been there, and then the intent is to hire a partnership coordinator. The steering committee, as I'll get into, holds, well, I'll pause there. And so the technical advisory committee, also Sinaiks, Silks, and then also members of the Slocan River Stream Keepers. The Slocan Lake Stewardship Society has been involved for most of the development, but has recently stepped away. And there will be an ongoing chair for them if they choose to return. And then again, the province and the federal government, RDCK staff, and when we hire them, a coordinator. A little bit about the history and process. We had our initial meeting in 2022 in the village of Slocan. It was an excellent meeting of bringing together folks who were interested. At that time, we also sent out letters to all the municipalities, so the village of Slocan, Silverton, and New Denver, talking about the intent of this partnership and whether there was interest to participate from the municipalities. And then we proceeded with a much smaller group to work on the process of drafting the terms of reference. And so that was with the groups mentioned there, the Sinaiks, Silks, RDCK, and Stream Keepers. Slocan Lake Stewardship Society was also involved for a period of time, but then stepped away. And this was really to create a nimble entity that could do the work of creating the terms of reference. And as you can see from the timescale, it took this group a long time as well. On October 8th, we had we came to finalize the terms of reference, which was a great day. And so now that we have these finalized terms of reference, we're wanting to, as we initially spoke about, wanting to extend the invitation to municipal governments to join us, and then also to invite in more formally the province and the federal government as well. Some of the roles and responsibilities, I won't go through these all, but in short, it's to provide strategic direction, it's to make decisions. This is of the steering committee, to provide strategic direction for the partnership, to make decisions, and to really hold the responsibility for the development of the documents and then anything subsequent to that. Whereas the roles and responsibilities of the Technical Advisory Committee are more so to provide the knowledge exchange, communication, to uphold the relationship with residents and to provide information flow back and forth of what is happening, and to really bring forward the expertise that we know is so abundant within the Slocan Valley, both from at a stewardship level within the stewardship groups, and of course with residents of having long time relationship with both the lake and river, and then of course the relationships with the snakes and the silks. Our intent is to work with residents both in the process of developing the foreshore inventory map for the river. That is intended to be very much an open process that's engaged with residents, and we see that we'll do some intentional work around that as the partnership, but also we see a lot of that happening through the stewardship groups as well. And then once the mapping is complete, the foreshore inventory mapping is complete, and the development of the guidelines, those are intended to be public-facing, accessible tools that will be available for residents. And ongoing information flow will happen again through the Technical Advisory Committee. And of course, through everybody that sits at the steering committee as well, representing residents. Some of the upcoming activities that I've alluded to already, but just to name them specifically, is that so our intent is to do foreshore inventory mapping for the river. It has been done recently for the lake, and then for all areas to complete shoreline management guidelines or shoreline guidance documents. And this is particularly looking at the river. At this time, the shoreline guidance documents will highlight the ecological and cultural sensitivity areas, so also including archaeological work. And this will be all informed and done in partnership with Sinaiks and Silks. Our hope is that we will be able to do this through funding from the Watershed Security Fund. The application went in yesterday, and again, that would be rolled out through a co-management of all the partners at the table. The last bullet there speaks to hiring a coordinator position or a coordinator, and that will be an open call that will go out to community, and then also that we have, now that the terms of reference are established, a regular schedule for meetings, 2 meetings per year for the steering committee and 2 meetings per year for the advisory committee. Spring and fall for the steering committee and winter and summer for the advisory committee. We have our first advisory committee meeting in December of this year. These are some of the questions that we received. I'm sure there are more, but one question was around participation. Of course, participation is voluntary. There's no obligation to participate, and any of the work that, while the mapping will be inclusive of all areas, any of the work that we do as the RDCK won't infringe upon municipal lands, and that's at the municipality's discretion. There was a question around including the Tanaha. At this time, there's a good working relationship between Sinaiks and Silks, and the Tanaha have been informed of the Slocan Lake and River Partnership at the Kootenay Lake Partnership. So they are aware of it, and at this time have not expressed interest in participating. There was a question about Living Lakes being included. And yeah, they are a valued nonprofit partnership, and they may be invited at times to provide their technical experience and expertise to the advisory committee. That will be at the discretion of the Technical Advisory Committee. They have been an important part of the mapping process for the lake and river, and also on Kootenay Lake as well. So they continue to be a group of people that we work with and maintain communication with. And then next steps. So in terms of just speaking directly to the villages of Slocan, New Denver, and the Slocan, we await your response. We hope that you will join the partnership, and if you do, the invitation is to please choose a representative, and the steering committee will meet in April of 2025, date to be determined. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Paris. And now we'll open it up for questions. I'm looking at the screen, so and as Tanya Gordon or Mayor Gordon has done, raise your hand. I can see raised hands on the screen or whatever. So go ahead, Mayor Gordon. You got the first question.
Thank you. And thanks for freedom of the floor. I was just curious how this was all different from the Living Lakes grant that the RD gave a couple years back. That grant was for the mapping and the foreshore development guidelines. So how is this different?
Thank you.
Yes.
Through the chair. So this is a continuation of that work. So that, I believe, was done, there was an update. There was initially work that was done in 2012, I believe. There was an update that was done in 2021 or 2022, specifically for the lake. And so we would work with the information that was provided by Living Lakes. And where we're focusing currently now is doing the same work or similar work for the river. So again, looking at doing mapping, foreshore inventory mapping for the river, and then developing guidance documents for the river so that there's continuity around the whole watershed.
So do you have a supplemental?
I do. It also says that you're looking at municipal watersheds. Is this going to affect our municipalities?
Thank you again through the chair. Only if you choose to participate. So we didn't want to be exclusive. So of course there are watersheds that are distinctly within the boundaries of the municipalities, particularly Silverton, and we wanted to ensure that that was included in the consideration of the whole of the watershed. But if you choose not to participate, then and I should say that choice piece of participation isn't a finite thing. So if you don't choose now, then but you choose in 6 months or 2 years, then that's always open. But yes, it would only be included if you chose to participate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions from anybody? Go
Yes,
ahead.
Walter, I have my hand up.
Okay, I see Leonard and Brian. Go ahead, Leonard.
Yeah, I see you have a financial portion to this, but we do not see a budget for it. I was wondering why that was, because it makes it a little easier if you're sitting around our tables, and the financial implication is something we have to be very concerned about.
Thank you. Through the chair. At this time, there's no financial obligation for any of the partners to contribute any funds. We were given a very small budget by the Community Sustainable Living Advisory Committee, CSLAC, to do this work and really do the initial foundation building work. We were given $5,000. We have a portion of, and that's been used for needing rental spaces, for travel costs, for participants to travel costs, mileage costs. And the intent is to use the remainder, which is about half, so about $2,500, use the remainder towards hiring a coordinator. So again, there isn't a budget beyond the foreshore inventory mapping work, and that budget was just developed for the application that we submitted on Monday, and it's complete. The grant is for $150,000. That would be the entirety of the project costs, and to operate the partnership, there are no costs at this time.
Thank you. Do you have a supplemental, Leonard?
Yes, and around you speak of watersheds, and the village of New Denver uses an aquifer, and I know this has come up in other communities where they've determined without science to say that all the area around is can affect the creek, can affect the aquifer, which there is no evidence and such that could prove that. So it's a little concerning for me to say for you to go in and then there's this document that people will end up having to defend or advocate against in areas like around our community, which would be in the regional district. So even if we do not participate, you could determine that it is a area of watershed, and when it really technically is not.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you through the chair. It's interesting. This question has also emerged in the Slocan or in the Creston Valley, where we're doing watershed governance work. And there's two large aquifers that provide significant ground water source for many of the residents. And similarly, we're trying to answer that question: are they connected to the surface water as well? And there is something that can determine the characteristics and see if the characteristics are similar between surface and groundwater. It's called isotopic modeling, and I would that potentially could be work that we did in the future. I wasn't aware that of the aquifer under New Denver, so just to say that there are ways to. Oh yes, of course, yes, I did know about Silverton. Yeah, right, and they're the same, right? So sorry, I'm making the connections, but yeah, so that is potentially work that we could do in the future if there was a question, and we'll be learning about it in the Creston Valley. That aside, really the work that we're proposing, while the steering committee was really wanting to see us not being exclusive to just saying that it's just the 30 meters from shoreline that we're considering, and wanting to make sure that all systems are considered. And I can appreciate that in this case the system is a little bit vague as because it hasn't included groundwater or 2B. Our focus at this time is really on the riparian zone. So we haven't determined any work into the watershed or what would be watershed. So perhaps I could just say that if that came to be at that time, that we would note your possible concern and come back to you for discussion at that time about what is the relationship to the aquifer to surface water and how do we do that well.
Well, thank you.
One more supplement there. I think it's worth the comment, Walter.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because we hired two hydrologists at two different times to tell us where the water was in the aquifer, and both of them agreed that this is where we needed to drill, and it would prove out to be so. And when we did it, it didn't. So yes, there's lots of fancy little gadgets out there and that, but there is nobody on this earth today that can tell us without a doubt that where the water is in the aquifers. Because otherwise, if they could, they'd be a very rich person.
Thank you.
Okay, your comment well taken, Leonard. And on the speakers list, I've got Brian Mills and then Jessica Lunn. Go ahead, Brian.
Walter, I've had my
Chair, you
hand
have
up
Director
for a
Main as
while
well. She's had her
now.
hand up for a while.
Please put me on the list.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Are you using chat, Chair, or are you using the hands on? Because it seems to be inconsistent.
Yeah, like I'm not using chat at all. I'm looking for hands up, just like Jessica has. And I know Brian made an indication. And Leah, please leave your hand up so I can. Your hand is very faint there, Leah. Maybe that's why I can't see it. But I think I'll go to Director Main first, and then to you, Brian, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I actually think I know what question Councillor Mills wants to ask, and so I will defer to him to ask it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
Good evening, everybody. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Brian Mills. I'm a native of the New Denver, Silverton area with ancestry in Slocan City. So I've got a vested interest in my hometown and the whole area. I'm pro-resource. I'll put that out there. I've got a bunch of questions, Paris. I'm going to jump around a bit. I apologize for any ignorance of some of the questions here, but if you can provide clarification, I appreciate that. The technical committee is comprised of the Slocan River Peacekeepers and our Stream Keepers and the Slocan Lake Stewardship Society. I'm wondering if we could have a representative from the west side of Slocan Lake, because those two aren't elected groups. And I know Mr. Popoff is the Area H, but we'd like to have a representative on the west side of Slocan Lake as well. on that technical advisory committee if possible. And
Yep. Do you
I
want
can
to
keep
ask
going.
questions at once, or shall I answer one by
Yeah,
one?
sure. You can please reply.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd have to take that to the steering committee. It'd be great to know who and what they represent, or like if they represent an entity, because again, we're trying to work with stewardship groups that represent large wholes, so large and diverse interests. And also, I would mention that we also have Sinaics, Confederacy, and Silks there as well. So yeah, I would. But yes, I can take your recommendation or your request to the steering committee.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Next one, you mentioned mapping, possibly an archaeological study. What do you see the implications of the findings being? Will that be more rules and regulations? Will that be a land grab? What do you think?
Thank you. Through the chair. Great question. Fortunately, we have precedent in this area where both on the lake itself, so Slocan Lake, which already has that environmental DPA in place. So, and we're wanting to do something similar on the river. So if the work that has been done already on the lake, and so from my understanding, there haven't been significant impacts. There's certain areas of cultural sensitivity that are highlighted, and how this has an implication is that when a development permit goes in, those areas are noted, and then there's a request to be sensitive in terms of the development. And so if there's digging that's involved, then there's a request to be careful because there might be archaeological sensitive areas. If there are certain areas that have been protected in terms of ecology, then it's more a consideration of how to protect them. But it's more just a pause on the development permit process. It doesn't hinder development. It just highlights that certain areas have greater sensitivity than others. We've also done this work already on Kootenay Lake, and we developed, and I'd be happy to share the shoreline guidance documents that were created for Kootenay Lake. And again, it's a mapping process, so it rather than hindering or creating limitations, it increases the value by highlighting the ecological values and the cultural values of the lake. But it does not hinder development.
Where can I find a list of those sensitive areas for Slocan Lake?
I'll have to find that and send that to you. And it's the report itself is through Living Lakes, and so
Okay.
I'll have to share that with you.
Okay, the Slocan Lake and River watershed, including subbasins of creeks and tributaries. Subbasins. Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yes. Thank you through the chair. And again, I should have introduced myself at the beginning. I'm not a scientist and nor a hydrologist, so I'm learning about this very much as I go as well. But a subbasin. So if we really, when we're talking about a watershed, we're drawing a line around any particular area that comes to a point where water accumulates. And so in the case of the Silverton village of Silverton, that is a watershed, but it's a sub-basin within the larger Slocan watershed. And similarly, the Slocan watershed is a sub-basin of the larger Columbia watershed. So we just keep getting layers and layers of size, and similarly, and maybe Carpenter Creek would, I'm not sure, but there's likely tributaries within the Silverton watershed that would make up their own individual systems as well. But in this case, we're drawing the line around the Slocan Lake and River as a watershed, and so within that there are many mini systems as well, and those would be the subbasins.
Okay, thank you. My concern is resource development in our area with the wildlife hazard area implemented up Silverton Creek. That little bit of conflict of interest here, but a lot of my mining claims were encompassed in that. And with what's going on politically in the province, that's even making it harder for us to do any work. So I wanted to know how far reaching this partnership might want to be, reaching out above the Slocan Lake.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. One more question. The 100-foot setback, 30-meter setback, is that a one-off? Because I don't see that in too many other areas. Usually they're half of that. And if it is, what benefit are we seeing between that 50 and 100 feet restricting development?
Thank you, through the chair. And I'll just, if I can just add a slight correction, it's not actually a setback, it's a development permit area. And so it's that development can still happen within that area, but that really that what happens is that if there's a development permit that is within that 30-meter or 100 feet set, development area, I use it too, and that it's not that there's a flag if there's a ecologically sensitive or cultural sensitive area. And so we've seen it. So area D of northern end of Kootenay Lake has a 30-meter setback in place. I don't believe that, but I would defer to others that might be aware of where that has really come on if there's been any significant restrictions to development. I don't believe that there has been. And again, the lake itself has had that. So if you haven't heard, I would say that that's good indication that it hasn't limited development at this stage. More the intent of this is to protect the areas that we all hold valuable along the lake and river, so that if there is areas that we want to protect, and that this mapping will be informed by everybody who lives in these areas. So you will have a voice as well of saying this is an important area, this is an important area, that we do have the opportunity to protect them before they are ruined or impacted.
Okay, thank you. Last one.
Go ahead, Brian, but I was going to say you can take it offline with Paris. There's other people that want to ask questions, but go ahead.
Do you see there going to be any risks to private property on the lake?
Unfortunately, thank you, through the chair, I can't speak to that. My understanding is that there may be the risks. Yes, so there may be situations where there are ecologically sensitive areas or culturally sensitive areas where there's a request not to develop on that particular site, but likely they will be contained in a small enough area that development can happen at other sites, or that development can be adapted in such a way that it can still happen with some considerations. And so I don't know at this time if there are any concerns to private property. That's not what we anticipate. It's more trying to increase the value of private property, and by protecting this sensitive shoreline, and also conserving the ecological values that support wildlife habitat and flooding mitigation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jessica, you're next. Leah, you were on the speakers list. Do you want to go ahead? You were ahead of Brian, but I neglected that. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question to Paris, I guess. It says, if yes, please choose a municipal representative for the steering committee. Can that be anyone from council, or does it have to be either the RD director or alternate director?
Thank you, through the chair. No, whoever is interested. And also, I would say that it could be a rotating person as well. There is a benefit of continuity, but if the stewardship committees have represented that, depending on what's the topic at hand and who's available, that they would have a rotation. And so if there were two people and they could trade off for each other, then yeah, it's whoever the council, whoever your councils choose.
Great, thank you.
Jessica, you're next. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just in terms of appointing someone, what does the partnership need? Like, do we need a resolution by council that we want to be part of the partnership? Do we need a resolution by council to appoint someone? Just curious about that piece. And then I have one more question, comment.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, our request is that if you do decide to join the partnership, that you sign the terms of reference. They've gone to the other partners, so to Snikes and to Silks, and they're going to RDCK in December. And so if that would be our request, is that signature. It's a non-binding signature. It's more an expression of interest. And then, yeah, just letting me know who you would like to participate.
Okay, great. And then this is more a comment or reflection, and maybe you could respond to it as well. But just in terms of a municipality being a part of the partnership, that's not being a part of the partnership wouldn't supersede our jurisdiction over our land use planning within the municipality, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
And maybe Director Popoff, Chair Popoff, if I may just add to that statement of.
Yes, go ahead. Thank
you. So the intent of what we're creating through the partnership is meant to inform and be supportive to all the work that we're doing. So in the case of the village of Slocan, your OCP, the intent is to be supportive to your OCP, and similarly for the OCP that exists for Area H in the north, it's intended to support that and support our work as a local government, and similarly the province and the federal government and Snikes and Silks, so that we're all talking and sharing responsibility and sharing information. We've seen that coordination be quite helpful at the KLP, and that there is a collaboration that can happen. But yes, each government is responsible for their own jurisdiction.
Okay, seeing no more questions. Oh, go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the initial outreach, I know that the village of Slocan is very interested, and just in terms of participation, I'd encourage folks from the other municipalities to participate just for that information sharing as well, because sometimes when folks don't participate, it results in like something will happen, and then people are like, what's going on? What's happening? So I guess I'm kind of trying to rally folks to participate, just so that we're all it's an information sharing platform.
Yeah, thank you. And just to expand on that, this would provide information to the villages, what's happening around the lake. And I think everybody is aware, we do have an official community plan in the north that has been adopted back in 2010. So a lot of these areas have been identified. And what has not really happened is the archaeological assessment around the lake. And that is something that will probably happen through this partnership. The main drive of this partnership is the river. There is no official community plan to identify sensitive areas of the river. And this is the whole part of it. But the lake was also included to identify the archaeological assessment areas and reinforce the official community plan. So any more questions? And then I'll go to freedom of the floor for Councillor Moss, who was late in joining us. We did the freedom of the floor for the other councillors. And you do have a presentation to make. So if it was staff, I would not ask for freedom of the floor. Staff has freedom of the floor. It's understood that they do, just like our CAO for the regional district. But no more questions. We'll move on to a motion to give Councillor Moss freedom of the floor. So moved by Director Main, a seconder.
Director Lan.
Yeah, seconded by Director Casely. So Councillor Moss, you also have now freedom of the floor. And as you know, we've adjusted our agenda a little bit. We've received the minutes. There were no delegations. We moved up the presentation from staff on the Slocan Lake and River Partnership, and I believe we've answered all the questions that were there. And thank you very much, Paris. And you can stay for the rest of the meeting, or is she already gone?
Paris has left the meeting.
Okay, so we'll move right on to 6.1 staff reports, and Manager Shirko, the floor is yours. And on the staff reports, I understand there has been an addition, well, not an addition, but a presentation from Director Casely on the cemetery. So we can maybe, if we start with that one, and I'll leave it up to you, Joe, how you want to start on that one.
Yeah, so through the chair, maybe what I'll do, sorry, so I haven't seen the presentation from New Denver, but what I will do is just start off with some facts about the service, and that probably will work well for what Director Casey might present for how the cemetery is working in New Denver. So in particular, from our other cemetery services that are municipally run, I believe that this is a good opportunity for all the partners in the Cemetery New Denver Silverton Area H service to be able to have a conversation about what the long-term operations are. And Leonard, that may be where you're going. I want you to know that at the moment, it's kind of a interesting fact with these contribution services that are given to municipalities. Unless there's conversation that's brought up from that municipality, even the regional district, we don't require the same information, for example, that I would get from a society because it's a municipality. So I don't even have background information on how the service is doing. To note that right now, the requisition last year was $19,549. That generated a grant to the Village of New Denver of $17,852. And sorry, I was a little bit wrong there. The requisition was 19,774, reading the wrong column. But the service can tax to a maximum of around 54,000. We haven't got what the 2026 requisitions amounts are from the province yet, but last year it was around 54,000 was the maximum taxation for this. Leonard, I don't know if that leads in well to what you want to show, but if we do, then Jenna could share that. Leonard, is that what you would like?
Sure. Yeah, if she could put up. Sorry for sending it late, but I wasn't sure if we
That's
got
okay.
it before. So I haven't. This has not been passed by our council. It's just a draft that I'm putting forward to council. What we've been seeing in the past is also that these services just kind of keep going on and on and on, and nobody looks at them. And then all of a sudden, one day somebody wakes up and goes, "Holy, we've been falling behind." Where I think we've really fallen behind, especially with ours here, and this would reflect for Jessica in her cemetery as well, is that you can see through the sheet there the difference, the cost. There is a significant increase coming if I am successful in getting this through council or portion of it. But this is to help with the burden on taxation, where the service is starting to actually put some money towards it, towards the service, because this service has pretty much been taxation based, not from revenue or coming anywhere close to helping with anything in what we're charging. And I know it's a shocker. There's numbers, but if you actually do any kind of research, these are just nothing compared to places outside. And what we've seen not a great deal, but we have seen where people in the Okanagan or Vancouver have gone to bury a loved one and find out the cost of it, the sticker shock, and then start looking elsewhere, and then look at our fees and charges in these small communities where we have limited space and go, oh, that's quite a bit cheaper. There's lots of, there's development that'll have to come at some point as we fill up, unfortunately. And my idea is to have these services, a lot more come from the actual burials and different things, and be more competitive with all the other ones instead of being at a really disadvantage in low income. So that's my thought and rationale for actually doing these increases. And as you can see, I'm not going to go through every item on it, but that is my proposal. And as far as a budget increase for the taxation would be about a 2.5% increase is what we were looking at in a draft form right now until it goes to council and be debated. But this will put some money into the reserve so that we have some to continue. The costs, our staff costs go up every year. And just the maintenance and trying to keep it to look at least reasonable. It's a big space and it needs some effort put into it. And I would like to see it come from somewhere other than taxation for a little bit, if we can, and keep the taxation to as minimal as possible. As you see, if you look over in the far column where it has the green burial, that just started, and you look at their starting numbers that they started out with were quite a bit more than our original numbers that we were charging, because that's the reality. And in this kind of, these services just kind of hang there and nobody really pays attention to them. So I was just informing the rest of the group that in the service area, the Village of Silverton and Area H. You can send me comments on it after, when you get time to look at it closer and everything else. That's perfectly great. I'll take any questions if you have any now.
Yeah, so I do have a question, Leonard, and I don't know if it goes to you or Joe. Is this a contribution service to a New Denver service, or is this an RDCK service?
Through the chair, this is a contribution to the Village of New Denver. So it's an interesting one. This isn't actually an abnormal service. For example, the cemetery service in Creston is the same thing. So the town of Creston, areas sorry, I might have it wrong here, but anyways, it's at least areas B and C, probably a portion of area A. No, it's all of area A. They all contribute to the town's operation of that cemetery. The one thing that I know and then that service actually does also contribute to some smaller rural cemeteries. And I know that, that commission has gone through various conversations on the small ones. Are they actually still delivering a service? How are they delivering a service? But they're very rock solid on the town of Creston cemetery service. And what actually changed the tide of that service was a cemetery master plan that was funded by the RDCK service for the town of Creston. That got everybody onto the same page in order to make that service sustainable into the future. And so I don't know how the Village of New Denver feels about their cemetery service, but this is a normal service. It's a grant to the Village of New Denver to run their service, but they hold the liability of running a cemetery. And that's a significant responsibility.
Oh, well, thank you. I see Mayor Gordon's got her hand up and a question. Go ahead. And I'll put myself on a speaker's list following you.
Thank you. Yeah, just one question on, I see that this is the revenue side of it. Will we also see the budget or the expense side of it, operating costs to do the cemetery or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it possible that we can get you to send us this? Because it's not in the package, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll follow up with a question on that one. I looked for the service establishment bylaw. I couldn't find one. Do we have a service establishment bylaw for it? The one that I found was bylaw number 1055, which is an old one.
Oh, sorry. I was just, Jenna, could you stop sharing? Thanks. I can look up that bylaw. I didn't bring my book. My book is just over there, but it is an old one. Just even looking at the draw, like the requisition amounts for 2025, like what we get as, I can tell just by the way it's written that it is old. So for example, that bylaw would have said that the maximum taxation at the time of inception of it was $6,375 or a rate of 0.13 cents. So just the fact of what that maximum was set at tells me, and that it's now 57,000, tells me it's an old bylaw.
Thank you.
So you're probably correct, Walter.
Yeah, when I look at the budget, our requisition on that for 2025 was 19,774, and that's all combined, the village, Silverton, and defined area H, and then 2026, 19,922. The requisition. So normally when we have a bylaw, it states the minimum and the maximum that we do for a 5-year plan. So I think probably we'd have to go back, take a better look at it, and get an updated bylaw passed so that we know what the 5-year plan. So yeah, you put that up there when you take a look. The requisition, that's what I'm concerned about, was 19,774 in 2025. How did we get there without a bylaw authorizing that?
Sorry, so the bylaw has an or. So the rate per thousand has increased the maximum over time. So the actual maximum today is around $54,000.
Okay, I see that. Or
Yeah.
13 cents per thousand.
Correct. So you're well under what the bylaw could tax. But remember that what you're seeing in our budget is not the operating budget of the Village of New Denver. It's just the contribution to the Village of New Denver. So I think that's what Director Casely has said that he will provide.
Okay. And I think that answers Mayor Gordon's question too. Okay, I see a head nodding. So is there any action required on this, Joe?
So what I will do is for the draft budget for this year, what from what I heard from Director Casely tonight, is that I will increase the grant to the Village of New Denver by 2.5%. And so if that's the direction of commission, so that you have that in your draft budget to consider, I will do that. And I will have that increase at the rate of inflation for the 5 years of the financial plan, so that you can see that and consider it. It doesn't mean that it's the correct amount, That's something that the Village of New Denver may come back and have comments on.
Okay, so we don't have a draft budget for us to consider. We know that it's going to be an increase of 2% over 19,774. That would be the requisition, and then it will be split based on the assessment between Village of New Denver, Silverton, and Defined H. Is that correct?
Sorry, I just want to do, I was just give me 1 second. I just want to make sure that you got a minute. I like Teams sharing better than Zoom sharing. You should be able to see now, there we go, the actual regional district budget for S178. So this is the 5-year financial plan. So what Director Casely and Director Casely, just correct me if I'm wrong, if I heard you incorrectly, but I would add 2.5% to this 2026 piece right here, which is 17,852 in the last year's financial plan. So that's what I would put as a proposed budget moving forward. Director Casely, is that correct?
Yeah, that's a draft.
Yes.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, and that will be brought back for our scheduled meeting in February, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But you will have that for your RDCK information in your total budgets.
Yeah, and that's when we will kind of take a look at, and that'll be the final presentation. And this is why we're doing the draft here, to get the comments from everybody on this, what increases, what decreases we can anticipate on this.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so you will work with Director Casely on the presentation, et cetera, that has to have, apparently he's going to provide a report to you.
Yes.
Okay, so the two of you will work on that, and it's understood. And we'll look forward to something at the February meeting. Now, going to the bylaw should we do a new bylaw on that? Like, bring the bylaw up to date, the wording, etc., with the limit still being 13 cents per thousand maximum?
Through the chair, I would just to be aware that Director Main has her hand up as well. It is very light, Leah. I don't know why it is so light, but it's almost skin color. It matches your background.
We'll see if I can do something about that.
But I would if Stuart has any comment on that, I would suggest that unless you're making a real change to the bylaw functions, what's written right now functions perfectly fine. So unless there's something that we would like to change or update, I would suggest not opening up the bylaw.
Okay, go ahead, Director Main.
Yeah, thank you. So through the chair to Mayor Casely, can we have a timeline on when we can expect to see the expenses as well as the revenues, so that we have time to discuss it as a council before it comes back to the Services Committee in February?
Yeah, we will be able to provide it in the next, probably be, by the beginning of January.
Okay, thank you.
And Joe, you will distribute it to all the partners in that service?
Yes. So through the chair, we will distribute that information when we receive it from the Village of New Denver.
Okay. I'm just thinking about maybe we should have a recommendation to staff to review the bylaw and recommend whether we have to update the bylaw, because it's an old bylaw. Might not need updating. Maybe it's still good enough. I was Stuart on here. What would be your suggestion on that one, Stuart?
Through the chair, unless you were looking at more money or to expand the scope of the bylaw, I don't see a need to address it. It was originally established by supplementary letters patent in 1987, converted to a local service area in 1994. There's no reason to adjust it unless you want to do something with the dollar amount, or if you want to do something with the scope of the service, such as looking at contributing to other cemeteries.
Okay, point well taken. So there's no need for that, and unless one of the directors feels that there's a need for it, we'll then move on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll just keep this screen up. If it becomes bothersome or you want me to pull it down, please don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah, like having that presentation on there, I'm not able to see everybody. So if you have any questions, feel free just to, yell out and we'll recognize you.
So, Chair, if I could, just on Zoom, if you use the hand function on Zoom, it brings you to the top of the pile. So if people use the hand function on Zoom, it'll bring, you can only see 4 windows right now. It'll bring an individual, and I'll show you if I raise my hand, I pop to the top of that list. So if people use the hand function within Zoom, you should be able to see them with the small vision or the small screen that you've got.
Got it. So you've heard that. If you want to speak, use the hand function. I'll bring you up to the top of the screen and I will recognize you. Most of everybody's hands function are nice and clear except Director Maines.
And through the chair.
I've changed mine now. You should be able to see it better.
Maybe it's just the power of the presenter, but I get to see the full budget and the full screen of you. So I see you all clearly on mine. So, so what we're doing here, so what you're seeing, like even for the Village of New Denver, is what was in last year's financial plan, because that's really the basis of where we start all our discussions about our budgets. So what you're seeing right here is S203's, the financial plan that we laid out last year. And so we start, I'll move over to a very ugly looking document, which is our current work on S203. But I do want to just take the moment to point out a few things that are actually have an impact later on. So later in the meeting, there is a recommendation to do an amendment to this financial plan in 2025. And that is because of the work. In particular, there's been a great deal of work being done on the Galena Trail over the last number of years. And so what that financial plan amendment, and I know that Carrie is here to speak to S203, and I'll flip to that budget, but I just want you to know that recommendation later on is in direct relationship to the 2025. It is about the extra costs that were incurred in that work, which when we had this process back last year, we noted that there's always lots of uncertainty with work on Galena Trail, in particular at the time that we were bringing it forward because of tariffs and that work that kind of uncertainty was caused there. But we've also got grants to cover it. We also discussed that if we were over, that we would draw some money from reserve. So that will be part of the flavor of Carrie's budget presentation next. So you can see here where we started. So we started with, when we're doing our draft budgets, we start as if when we're looking forward, we start that there's no surplus moving forward. So when we're looking at this draft budget, the next one that you're going to see $328,454 for requisition. So that's where we start. What you'll note in this draft budget is that right now we're showing that we don't require all of that requisition for 2026. So I'll just move if there's any question about the 5-year projection of the plan, or else we'll move to the 2026, just really zooming in on that. If that's okay, I'm not seeing anything. I will move to there. Oh, the one thing to note here is that these are our current reserve balances. Director Popoff, I do have Director Gordon, or sorry, Mayor
Yes, I've
Gordon's.
got Mayor Gordon. She's got her hand up. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I just had a question on the contracted services. Can you tell me what this is? Is that the dog control for the different parks, or is what is that exactly?
I'll through the chair to Carrie, but no, dog control is a. Oh no, sorry, it might actually be dog control. Sorry, go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Through the chair. So contracted services are a couple of things. For the dog control, just to know that's $6,000, and that's $6,000 for within the Area H Slocan. So within this budget for Crescent Valley Beach specifically. So again, that's $6,000 as part of that. The other contracted service there is for Winlaw and for Crescent Valley Beach. Where we don't have an employee that does that work specifically. So up in New Denver, we do have an employee that takes care of Bigelow Bay, takes care of the Roseberry, Three Forks, the trail, and the parklands. So down at Crescent Valley Beach, we have a contractor that goes and collects the garbage, collects, does cleaning of the washrooms, etc. And then there is a small portion of some of that that is part of the garbage collection by the city of, by the village of New Denver at Bigelow Bay. So that's generally where the contracted services are for this budget.
Supplemental?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just noticed in, I believe it was the regional parks meeting in March, you gave individual budgets on the different parks. I was wondering if it was possible that we could get one for all 5 of our parks that we pay into? If you've got those handy?
So tonight, we're not going to go down into individuals because we're still, so right now, we're just doing the roll-up. That's the intent of tonight's meeting. If we want to go down into the individual level, we can do that in February. Then that would be at the direction of the commission.
Okay. Yeah, I just find it handy to look at those individuals so we can find out exactly how much it's costing per park, and then we can see what the overall management's cost is for the RDCK as well. Can I ask one other quick question?
Yes, go ahead.
The community services fee, how is this figured out? Is this by amount? And I would assume that is this RDCK costs? Is that what that is?
So that is yes, so it's parks cost. So what it is, so in the regional district, we have to cast out our fees. But the biggest part in parks is that we actually have an operational team. So we have a team of 2 full-time, 3 full, sorry, Carrie. We have a full team of 3 full-time operational staff, 1 part-time, 1 seasonal staff, and then we also have a parks planner. Plus we have our management team of Craig, so who's our regional operations and asset management, and Trisha and her team, who is our regional client services, and myself. So that fee pays for our parks trucks. It pays for that park staff who goes and does projects. It pays for all of their oversight on major park projects. So Carrie will go through that a little bit in what the accomplishments are for parks in the Area H service. So that is what it covers off, and it also covers IT fees, general administration fees, HR fees, everything else that we have. So it's not just about people. It's also about buildings that they work in and the physical devices that they have to do that work.
Thank you.
So, Carrie, do you want to go? So the big thing that we'll show, sorry, Carrie, I'll just do one thing. So when we're talking is that right now, we're showing that this service with the funding that we have projected up here, that we have $50,923 of too much funding. But this, you'll note, was the requisition amount as per the 5-year financial plan. But it won't stay that way as we move through and tighten the budget up. we'll start making changes. Carrie, over to you.
Yep, thank you. Through the chair. So yeah, I can just briefly go over the last number of years really within this service. I would say this service has had a lot of manpower, employee time, construction, etc. In the last number of years, particularly on the Galena Trail. We've totally redone the whole cable car. We've redone two aluminum bridges, one 65 feet, one 85 feet, and also completed another bridge that was crossing a canyon that we had an engineer actually served it as not able to use anymore. So yeah, there's been a fair bit of work there, never mind the regular maintenance that happens, because every year we find water tends to go someplace else. So that's where our employee up in that area does a lot of that work by hand, and etc. So same with Roseberry Parklands. There's always work to be done there. We just had a brand new washroom placed there. Bigelow Bay just had a new washroom put in with some trail work, some fencing, things like that. So up in that area, there's been a fair bit of work. Crescent Valley Beach Regional Park, been about 8 years now that started from nothing to create a whole new park that's there. And all these places are highly used. I don't have numbers right now, but we do have some good data on the number of usage in those parks, as well as Winlaw Park, which we've spent approximately $1 million on redoing all of the boardwalks in that area. So much of this has been on grant money. So that's the one thing, either community works funding grants and or Columbia Basin Trust grants or CRIP grants, or so much of the actual work for these themselves have been done through application of grant work. So that's kind of the accomplishments I would say that we've had up in the area. Again, a few glitches now and again with having to close trails, which never makes anybody happy, but we did the best we could to get all of these things done. So we now have an active trail and things like that. So coming up in the new year, really I wouldn't say there's a lot of we have no real capital projects to do. We're trying to keep, this year really to just that maintenance. So some of the things on that we'll be doing will be just a little bit of trail work that we have for drainage and things like that on the Galena Trail, and then the regular maintenance that goes on. In terms of the salaries and things like that, again, those are employees that are up in that area as well. Down at Crescent Valley Beach, we have a xeriscape garden, which has been very successful as well. And we have lots of really good comments, and we're trying to get more pamphlets out there and things like that. So that's been, again, a fairly high success in that area. And really just dealing with invasives is always something that is difficult, but and it's always hard to keep on top of that, but we're doing our best. And that does come from a CKIS plan that the Kootenai invasive species came up with an inventory for us, and they had originally done some work, and it was a fair bit of cost in there. So we have the ability to do that in-house the best that we can. So that's really, I would say, the gist of a lot of those things that we have in here. And if there's any questions that you see or anything in there that I can answer, I'm happy to do that. But that's really our gist for this year, is just to kind of get back to some of that regular maintenance rather than many of the projects that we've had to do in the past.
Yeah, I don't see any questions, so we can move on. I got a question here. Is that increase there in requisitions is around $60,000? Where is that increase coming from?
Well, through the chair, I think as Joe mentioned, that is the number from the 2025 5-year plan. And that's where we started within that requisition, is just took that from the 5-year plan. But if you go to the bottom right now, we're projecting that $50,923 is really what we would, if we're keeping it as is, would likely reduce that. One of the increases this year that we didn't do last year because we knew we may be pulling from reserves was putting money into reserves. Generally, there's not a lot of use in putting money into reserves if you're pulling from reserves. So there is a contribution to reserve this year that we didn't have last year. So, and the amount of surplus, that we have is less this year than we had last year. So the combination of those is really would make up any increase that you'll see, if any, in this year's requisition.
Okay, great, thank you. And this is just a draft budget. The finals haven't come in yet, and in February it'll be adjusted. We'll get the actual budget that we're going to be looking for as far as requisitions goes. And I see you nodding your head, so that's correct, right?
Yeah, and through the chair, Leonard has his hand up. Dr. Keesley. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Leonard.
Yeah, I can't see the amount going into reserve, Gary. So could you? Because there's people in my
this year it's budgeted at 25,000 at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and through the chair, I know we did have this discussion a couple of years ago in the importance of putting money into reserves so that we don't come into that position where all of a sudden we have something that we have to fix. And, this way we have an opportunity, as we are doing this year, to pull from that when we need to.
So if I can ask another question, are we going to do an asset management plan on this? Because we own a lot of bridges here and everything else.
Through the chair, I'll let Greg, you okay to pick that one up?
Sorry, Joe, couldn't find the unmute on Zoom. Through the chair, and thanks, Carrie, for the information. So we did condition assessments on a lot of our parks assets regionally. We did present to, I believe, the All-Rec in 2024 on what the magnitude of those would be, and certainly with these new additions, we will be looking at, and to Carrie's point about reserves, and what we could do with the additional $50,000 that you see at the bottom of this. If that's not to offset requisitions, it could be to ensure that we've got funding for the future if we do have to replace a bridge or do major repairs to a bridge for whatever reason. But as far as our key assets, those new bridges that we've installed, the cable car, all of that will be, as we look at it over the next 25 to 50 years, we will be putting plans together to ensure that those are maintained to the end of their life cycle.
So just circle there. It got some nice little tools. I found a pen. So that is how much we had going into the year with reserves. This was our planned contribution. Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right. Oh, that doesn't work if I do that. Got to go back to winter. Yeah, that's 2025. So our planned contribution was 10,000 from reserves, and part of that discussion later on in the meeting will be to increase that contribution. Carrie, what's the amount that we're increasing it by? 17 to 27?
I believe it's 16.
16.
The 17.5 is the grant that we have coming in that I applied for.
Yeah.
Hey, Leonard, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just because we did all this work recently, we would have a number for those bridges in a lifespan of 20 or 25 years. It'd be pretty simple to do an item line on the bottom to say the value of what we've done with the cable car, the bridges to date. Starting today, you have 25 years left before you have to replace them, and that value is this today. You can theoretically add 15-20% for 20 years from now. Maybe it's 100, but who knows? But at least we'd have a number to start working towards, and it would show that we are really thinking about it, and it would be helpful to determine our reserve amount that we need to start putting away. Just because, especially in this service, we've just done all this stuff, so it's really fresh. And as people change, not saying anything, Joe, things get lost. And if we could just put an item line at the bottom of this of what we know to date of bridges replaced, cost, a simple item line, and we could, even using the amount we use today, we would then have somewhere to start off putting money towards, or at least recognizing that we need to.
Absolutely. And what I would suggest, I will definitely bring that up with Yev Maloff, our CFO, but hold that thought for the December board meeting where you'll be talking about asset management. And so, because I know that Yev does have some plans on how to reshape the financial documents to make sure that we're showing more information that is pertinent to whatever that service may be. And that is a good thought, Leonard. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Director Casey, sorry.
Yeah, that's no big deal. No, that's what that's how we started with doing ours. Just because we started it, as soon as you start doing something, putting the number there, it triggers everyone. And as you buy bigger options, you just keep putting it in, right? And is it a perfect asset management plan? No, but it's sure better than the one we got, and we're not waiting for a consultant to do it for us.
No, absolutely. And now we have, through the chair, I don't mean that to be a conversation, but we do have staff that is starting to work on that and how we present those things consistently year over year. So the next service.
Thank you, Leonard. We'll move on to the next one.
Is S208, which is the ski hill. We had a little bit of that discussion. So what we'll do in February is we'll bring that plan forward on how to move this service forward. But just to know that there really is no flexibility in this service. The bylaw is very restrictive. So the bylaw, literally, the requisition is 20,000. That's what it is. Partly what I will do is we'll be communicating to the participating directors about maybe where that shortfall is for the society. But we can't do anything about the bylaw in time for 2026. So this will need to be so for the 2026 tax year. So it means that any work on the bylaw needs to be done in 2026 in time for 2027. So they're the most basic piece, but what I was understanding from the presentation of the society is that the mechanisms that we have within the regional district to increase the bylaw may not be sufficient for what they're seeing there needs to be. So we'll work in 2026 to confirm that. What that would mean is if our mechanisms that we can do without going to voter assent, it may mean that you need to go to a form of voter assent to change that bylaw. So just to be aware of that may be the option that you end up at. But for 2026, the requisition will be $20,000.
So I've got a question here. Myself and Director Weatherhead provided a grant. Will that cover their insurance costs for 2026, or was that for 2025?
If you provided I would have to ask the society that.
Okay, we weren't too sure. I was under the impression their insurance costs have increased, and that was going to be for the 2026 year that we provided the grant to help cover their costs on top of the $20,000 that they're going to get. And then we'll work on the bylaw, or we'll figure out which way we're going to go. And that's going to be left up to you and the Ski Society.
Correct. Yeah, and through the chair.
Is that correct?
And to the directors, the requisition is 20. They don't get 20. In fact, they've been getting less of a grant every year. And that's because administratively, we have to recover our costs first before the grant. So that part, just to know, like you can see right here, excuse me, that without changing the requisition, their grant amount from the district has been decreasing from day one of the service's inception. So that is why, always to remember that when we create services, like oftentimes, like at some point in time, there must have been that conversation politically. But not having a mechanism in a bylaw to increase the maximum requisition. A bylaw doesn't increase the requisition because that's a budget decision. But holding that maximum can put a service into a tough spot later on. Director Main has her hand up.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Go ahead, Director Main.
Yeah, I see. I changed the color on my hand so you can see it now.
Hey,
yeah, just
great.
just a quick notation, because I think some of the council members present might not understand. This is a contribution service. The ski hill is not run by the regional district. We contribute this money to the society that runs it.
Correct, and that's the same as the cemetery service to the village of New Denver. All right. So the TD societies were something that you wanted to look at, and there's two TD societies. So all I'm presenting here is because usually I get some direction before I change these, but when I look at their financial plans, I don't believe there's a necessity to increase the grants. I'll show you what they've provided. So each year, in order for a society to get their grant, so this is the same with Summit Lake Ski Hill, they have to provide financial information to the district. So I'm going to show you that information, which I think will help inform the discussion. So this is the New Denver, Silverton, and Area HTV Society, and these are the documents that they provide the district. So we've just blocked out any personal information because this is a public document, but the rest of this is available. So this is their balance sheet at the end of the year. Their profit loss. So you can see that their year from now, this is interesting. Is last year's, not this year's, of course, because they're still finishing. They're in their fiscal year this year, but you can see that last year, I would never say that a society has a net profit loss, but the difference between their operating income and their operating expenses, they had $6,700 left over at the end of last year. So we don't tell them how to present their budget. So this is a little bit different. These are the years going down. I find this hard to read, but what's interesting is that they're not projecting the RDCK grant. They're actually projecting a decrease in the RDCK grant for 2026. So down from 23,799 to 21,850. Mayor Gordon has her hand up, Director Popoff.
Yes, well, I was waiting for you to finish before I recognized her, but go ahead, Mayor Gordon.
Thank you. I could have waited too. I just wanted to get my hand up there so I didn't forget. I was just curious, between the two, the Area H North and the Area HTV South, there's a pretty big difference in the insurance costs. Do we know why it's over double for the North? I'm just curious why that amount's so big.
So through the chair, I would have to ask the actual commission person because this is a contribution service. They don't really answer to the regional district. They just provide the information. So if you would like, I could ask them. Is that a question that the committee would like me to ask?
Yeah, I would like to ask that question, and also, is there any chance of them going together on the insurance to, if it might be cheaper? Like, insurance is becoming, as we see with the ski hill requisition and stuff, it's crazy. And I did have a conversation with our insurance company, which is the same as your guys's. And there are some things that might be able to happen, but I haven't been able to find time enough to get back to her and have some conversations. So
just out of curiosity, like, is it at a meeting during the year? Do you want a representative of the TV societies to come and do a presentation? Is
if I
that a
can,
better way of doing that?
I think in the future it would be a great idea that, even all these services do a presentation. Now that we've started this, it's much easier to do it over the course of the year and give the heads up and give people time to digest it all and move forward. It's not so rushed at budget time. Just my thought.
And just for us as staff, like, contribution services are intended to be low maintenance in a way for regional. So it would work better for staff if it was about scheduling them to come to a meeting to do a presentation. And we can, definitely work with the chair and the committee about what are those types of things, because these societies in this area aren't used to this either. They're not used to that type of ask, as we found with Summit Lake, despite the fact that we actually staff thought that we had given them a clear direction. It's very new to them.
Yeah, so I think it makes life easier for all of us.
Yeah.
And then we can have the questions answered that we get on our side from the public to say, we've asked this and here's the answer from them.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll make a list of the societies that are getting funding from Area H, Silverton, New Denver, Slocan, so that then we can talk about what's a rotation that you would like to see as a committee, and we can get that regularly scheduled into their plans too.
Okay, will that satisfy you, Leonard?
Oh, I think that works for everyone personally, not just me.
Yep.
But
No.
Not just me though.
No, I know it's not just you, but it was your suggestion, and are you happy? If anybody objects to that suggestion, now's the time to do it. See no objection, so that's basically something that Joe will look into.
Perfect. So this is the south. Again, you can see, like, really they're getting about similar requisitions. So what I would do this year, like, whenever I do these, I usually look at their 5-year plan and then make adjustments to the grant if the service can do it. And both these services, that's fine. So you can see what the budget is here. This is from last year's 5-year plan, but we'll go into the society's documents. So we can see this is again 2024, 2025. But what they're presenting here is that they were budgeting for a closing balance that was, they're actually, their budget wasn't to zero. So this would show that there was 84. They were projecting that they were going to have $8,400 left at the end of the year. It looks like when they looked at their actuals, they were actually at $4,000. So this service, their 5-year budget is showing a flat grant rate. But you can see that when they're showing their budgeting, they're showing their revenues as higher than what they're projecting their expenses. I would suggest, though, that their expenses seem pretty flat, like there's no inflation built into them. So we can take that budget for, with just a tiny bit that's a volunteer group doing a budget. Director Walter, I'm open for questions.
Go ahead, Leonard.
Yeah. So Joe, is the any surplus, it all these services goes into reserve, right?
No. No, sorry. Sorry, Leonard, for just jump through the chair. No, in this case, that's theirs. So they're managing that themselves, right? Because it's a contribution. So it's a check that goes to them, and then they're responsible for managing those funds. So I have no, so that's not on our books.
You can see the reserve that's being built up by the North Society is far greater than the one in the South. And one of the reasons being is the North Society provides far more channels than the one in the South. And maybe that's why the insurance costs are greater. I'm not too sure. Those are the questions to be asked to the society.
So for this year, like what I would suggest that for the two budgets is that the North is showing a request in their budget that's less. So I will reach out to them and just say, hey, in your 5 years, this is what you're showing. Is that your intent that that's what the grant is for 2026? I'll just confirm that with them, and then that's what we would enter in. In the South, they're showing the same contribution that we have been making. And unless there's some thoughts from the directors, I would continue with that contribution.
So just for your information, I just finished talking to the president of the TV Society in the South, and they're going to lose their power to one of their sites. The power is being provided by CBC, and CBC is going to basically, they're abandoning their cable and they're going to solar panels. And now the society is negotiating with CBC if they can take ownership of that cable. And they're looking at a significant cost of around $30,000 to be able to take ownership of that cable. And that I would provide as a grant to them from my community development funds to keep them operating and to reduce the taxation. And I can use my community development fund to reduce taxation. So just information at this point. They are in the process. We'll know hopefully in the spring or whatever whether this is going to happen or otherwise they're going to lose one site.
Through the Director Main.
Okay, Director Main, go ahead. You're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Going back to Mayor Casely's question about the TV Society North and having a surplus. A number of years ago, that budget was reviewed annually between New Denver and Silverton with the society, and they were very aware at that time of having to build some reserves in order to be able to respond to broken or damaged equipment, so that they weren't just totally reactive in the moment and going, oh my God, we have to come up with $10,000 to replace this signal. So yes, they do. They have. I see a $6,000 surplus there, and my reading of that is that they would be looking to have that as a reserve for emergency use and equipment maintenance and upgrades. Thanks.
Yeah, and to expand on that, that's what you call sort of asset management planning.
Well, to be clear, is I'm actually a big fan of reserve accounts. I do not like this holy crap 1 year, and so that's why I was asking about it. I think it should be mandatory in all our services. If we're going to actually put a service together, is to put a reserve account added to it.
Yeah, and point well taken, Leonard. But because it's a contribution to a society, they do their own asset management planning, and we can kind of request that through our contribution that they do a reserve for asset management planning. Thank you. Okay, Joe, go ahead. No further questions on that one.
All right. So recommission number 6. So this service is essentially right now does have some programming, but in particular, it's about the gymnasium and then grants that are given out. So we are doing a little bit of a review of this service. We're still working on how to make sure the burden on the village of New Denver and how we do this. So we had envisioned that there may be some salaries for programming and those kinds of things up there, and some support to the actual gymnasium. We're still learning, so I would suggest that we've tried to staff some positions, and this goes for S229 and S231. We're just revisiting that. We've had a position really that's been vacant for quite a while. It's surprisingly difficult sometimes to recruit, and this is proving to be one of the difficult ones. So in this service, we were projecting a steady increase in requisition. This was more to do with just tracking that salary piece, but I'll show you what the 2026 budget is looking like. And I said this is very early for this one in particular. But requisition right now, it doesn't look like it will change much from last year. There's a good chance I would almost bet on it that it would be flat, but not all the budgeting is finished. We're reviewing these pieces right here. We do have just this last week, it looks like we may be successful in some recruiting. So we're revisiting that. There's been lots of discussions going on back and forth amongst staff. The big piece here that I would suggest that we want to start thinking about in this service, because there are some plans that have been talked about around commission, especially the redoing of the floor in the gymnasium piece. That would be something significant. I actually think that one of the things we may want to look at is starting to create a little bit of a reserve fund in here. And Director Casely will be aware that the Village of New Denver has actually made contributions to IH to do improvements to that building. And I think that we need to start taking some responsibility in building that in. We are in a very advantageous position with IHA in this building. We need to know we're very flexible with IHA when they may need some parts of the gymnasium and that for storage of if they're doing renovations, because that's a very favorable agreement that we have with them for the community. So I know that the challenges here are administration of FOBs, making sure that the equipment is up to date and safe. I don't believe we're probably doing regular enough inspections. We are doing inspections. We have a lot of volunteer work, especially from Councillor Fike in New Denver, that is invaluable. But we can only expect those kinds of things to be happening for so long. So I think there is some changes through this service that we're going to need to make over time, but we'll work with the this committee and that commission wants to try out being an advisory committee, and that commission advisory committee, which is called Slash right now, it's in transition on how we can make this service as effective as we possibly can. And I know that Tricia may have a lot to say because she's worked very closely with that commission on allocation policies and a whole bunch of different things to try and activate that space. But if there's any questions on this service, it's looking like the taxation will be close to flat.
So we do have a question here, Tanya. We do have a question here, Tanya, and then Leonard. So I will just resort to first names.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions on the sheet that you have up there. Your contracted services are way over the budget, and so are the repairs and maintenance, but the equipment is so far under budget. Can you tell us what went on there?
So this year, contracted services, I looked at this. Okay, sorry. So the contracted service piece is we're in transition with Village of New Denver last year. So last year when we reconciled how much staff time it took for the Village of New Denver, and when we reconciled the revenue from passes last year, that happened really late in the budget process. In fact, we'd actually finished. So I'm predicting that is actually not an actual that's in there in the 2025, but I'm predicting based upon last year, it took about $5,000 to $5,500 of village staff time. So I'm predicting that may be similar this year, but I haven't got it. But the reason that's above the budget is because we didn't know the actual as we were kind of finalizing that budget. But the revenue last year was actually higher as well. So I'm waiting to see that reconciliation, which we'll work with the Village New Denver to try and do that a little bit earlier than how it came about last year.
Okay, Leonard.
Yeah, I just like to say, Joe, since we figured out the fobs, that has saved a ton of time. Like staff is not spending the same amount of time. Thank God, because actually we're seeing quite an increase in user fees. Like even because we do not prorate the fees, and virtually if you're buying a membership today, you get till I think it's January 1st, isn't it, Joe?
Correct. That's correct.
But I mean, it's still too cheap. But yeah, we worked out quite a few bugs in this service, thankfully.
Yeah, through the chair, it's a great topic of conversation because Tricia and I we actually talked about that this week because we're doing a customer service survey, and Tricia, just correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the comments from New Denver is about why don't we prorate the fees, but the fact of the matter is we chose a very low fee of $50 for an individual, $100 for a family, purposefully to keep the administrative expense low. So when Tricia and I were discussing that, it is one of the cases where the commission staff, everybody's in alignment of why we're doing that process. But it doesn't necessarily equal a positive response from the public, because they're not looking at the fact that $50 for 1 month is a good value. They're looking at, oh, if I would have bought it in January, it would have been $50. But there is an administrative advantage to it, because once you start managing expiries in that actually increases the administrative burden on staff, because all of a sudden you have something that's expiring partway through the year, which might mean deactivating the fob, trying to collect the fob, or renewing that. So those are things that we'll continue to work on with the commission/advisory committee.
Just a supplemental, Walter, on that is, last time I talked to staff last week, I think it was only like 2 or 3 people refused to pay for it. Everyone else is like, it's cheap, doesn't matter. I mean, for the added headache of doing a prorated one or some sort of complications, that no thank you.
And thanks, and I agree. I think like this is one of the ways that you manage your costs.
Okay, seeing no more further questions, we'll move on to the next one, Joe.
So this one, now you get to you get to see Walter's other service, S231. So the only participant in this service is Area H. So this is a bigger recreation service, but this service, as Walter will can attest, has been changing. It now has actually 2 of our bigger pieces of property for parks. Well, I shouldn't call Campbell Field a park yet, because we're still working in that development piece. But there are 3 parks in this service. Right now, that's the way they're being used. One is Cristova Regional Park. The other is Campbell Field, which is 8 acres right beside Mount Sentinel School at the junction. It's a large piece of property, and we have done quite a bit of planning work. In the future, that work will have to be picked up. There is some community interest, so I know that Jeff and Carrie's not on the line, but they are working with some community people there. And then the other one is, which is really kind of a nice story, is the transition of the old schoolhouse from, it's, you know, it is what lots of our communities have to really think long and hard about, but is the movement away from a structure, indoor structure, to an outdoor structure. And we have tremendous community involvement there on that. They did tremendous work this year in concert with our staff. And cover architecture is Walter. We should see some plans in early next year that we'll know what our fundraising goals are going to be. So that is coming together greatly. But this is a service where we're moving from really a structured programming service to more of an outdoor service, and we're still in transition here. So this does have has quite a bit of taxation in for it, and it's something that we're working on. Trying to figure out what it is that we want to accomplish in the southern portion of Area H. So this is what the 5-year budget will look like. This is the 2026, but again, here we're expecting that taxation won't be 329. It will be something less. But we're still, I think, even as strategic staff, myself, Craig, Tricia, Tia Whaling, who's our program manager, and Vanessa, darn it, Vanessa's last name, well, I'm going to say Bludoff right now. That's her maiden name.
Joe, it's Boudreaux.
I know, but some of her stuff in regional district gets still blued off. Sometimes it's Scudro. It changes all the time. So, but Vanessa, we're working together on what this can be. So there's still a lot of work to do in this service. Walter, I don't expect that the requisition will go up as much as this. We do have our eyes and attention on it.
Okay, well, thank you, Joe. But while you're away on holidays, I met with Craig and Tricia and our planner, Mark Crow, and I asked for them to take a look at planning something similar to what we did with Tagum Beach. And I would provide a community grant to do all of that so that we know what we're looking at the village, at Campbell Field, and Crestova Park. All three combined into one. And I would pay for that out of my community works funds.
So through the chair, then I'll through the chair, I'll make sure that we have that captured in here.
Yeah, if you can capture that, I think Craig, Trish, and Mark are aware what my plans are for it, and I do have community works funds available, and I might as well use them to find out what exactly we're going to do there, and then we'll take it further from there.
And just one of the things, like, and Trish, I don't know if you want, sorry, I can kind of put you on the spot, but one of the things this is one of the places where summer camps is working, which is really nice to see. It is growing in the valley, and through to Director Popoff, one of the advantages of that is the Slocan, sorry, not Slocan, Slocan Park Hall, and that group's work is really starting to show that kind of stuff can work very well in the valley. So those are all of the shared services and just know that even between this service and S229, part of the idea is that there's a staff in this service that will be able to assist with S229 and the gymnasium and helping keep inventory of equipment and those kinds of things. So as we move forward, this is something that we're trying to figure out. How do we make these things work together in the valley?
Okay,
So
and yeah, I think everybody's aware. We've established a community advisory committee for Rec 8, and they will be meeting, and we'll be taking direction from them. We'll bring the notes back to the services committee, and I will be hopefully recommending what action we're going to take based on the notes, and ask for the support of the other directors for that action, where I am the only participant, and the taxation areas, Area South doesn't include the villages at all. So it's almost 9 o'clock. We were booked till for an hour and a half. We've been at it for 2 hours now, and we still got quite a bit of a agenda. And if Director Moss would have signed in early, we would have had him adjusted to be earlier presentation, so he doesn't sit there patiently waiting for us to go through our budget. But that's good information for you, Councillor Moss. So our next item on agenda is under new business is yourself, service case analysis, New Denver Library. And I believe we might need a motion to give you a freedom of the floor. So
I think you already did. You already did.
Were you
through the chair,
in that motion?
We did that already.
Okay.
When Councillor Moss, or when Colin came into the meeting, you did that right away, Walter.
Okay, super. Go ahead. Floor is yours, Colin.
Okay, sorry for my late joining. I couldn't get in here. It was giving me trouble. All this budget stuff's like old times. I learned a lot after.
You're frozen.
Oh no.
Oh my.
Perfect. He's over. We can move on.
Isn't that
Colin,
just
you're
the way it
frozen.
works?
Kill your picture and you might be able to talk.
Okay, Colin's still there. Through.
Well, we can pause for a few minutes here. Wait for him to come. Oh, there he is. He's back on it again. Colin. How about we continue with the business and postpone Colin Moss till later till he can establish a good connection. Do I have approval of the directors to postpone it? Leonard and
Yes, that's fine by me.
okay, and Jessica. Jessica, are you there?
So yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, we'll postpone the presentation by Colin Moss, and we'll continue on to item 7.2. So, Village of Silverton correspondence. Open council meeting resolution has been received. And I will go to Tanya or Catherine. Who wants to start that?
Can I let the CAO Catherine speak on that? If I can, I would like her to speak on it.
Okay, your call. They're part of the meeting, and they don't need approval of the board.
If they don't need approval, then she can speak to it. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Catherine.
Okay, hi everyone. So the Village of Silverton operates both the Silverton Gallery, and then we own the Arena Curling Club, although it's operated by a nonprofit society. And I think that at the time that the service was established, there was also ice service in New Denver, but that's not currently the case. Both of those facilities are seeing use for recreational purposes by residents, not just of Silverton, but of both New Denver and Area H. And since Silverton is struggling financially to maintain those facilities, there's been this resolution that's been through Silverton Council seeking some taxation support for those municipally owned facilities in the form of a contribution service.
So I do have a question. Like we've got a couple, some recommendations on that. And the first recommendation is that the board directs staff to prepare a service case analysis and report it back to the board on the implications of establishing a Slocan Valley North Recreation Leisure Facilities Contribution bylaw for making a financial contribution to the operation and maintenance of the regionally significant facilities in the Village of Silverton and or the Village of New Denver and or defined Area H. That would be the first recommendation. The second is direct staff to write a report on including operational and maintenance funding grants for regionally significant facilities in the service area of the Village of New Denver and Silverton and portion of electoral Area H program. And the last one is take no further action. So since you have an RDCK director on the services committee, it's up to your RDCK director to make one of those recommendations and then we'll vote on it. Leah.
Yes, I'm here. Give me just one moment.
You've got the agenda in front of you and you've seen all the three options recommended to consider. So which option would you want to move?
I am going to move option 2.
Okay, option 2. Do we have a seconder for that? We have Leonard seconding that option 2. And can you read that option out so we're all aware of it?
Yes. Direct staff to write a report on including operational and maintenance funding grants for regionally significant facilities in the service area of the Village of New Denver and Silverton and portion of Electoral Area H Recreational Program S229.
And to bring that report back to the February meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so I've
Thanks.
see a hand up from Manager Shiriko. And, you moved that option. Let's get it seconded so we have it on the table. Do I have a seconder? Leonard, you second it. So before I call for a vote, I will ask for Manager Shiriko to respond.
There. Through the chair. Just want to make, so what I'm suggesting in that recommendation is that those types of things could be contained in the service S229, so the current service. That service already has the ability to do grants. So the reason for that is that you can almost see it that when we start getting too many contribution services that are too specific, it starts, it creates way more services, which becomes more difficult, I think, even for this committee to manage, never mind staff. But it does enable you to then identify what are those core pieces of your recreational delivery system in that area. I would just note that it would be good for the committee to consider, are those the only facilities you would want to consider for providing grants on a regular basis? We would have to, just so you know, the part of the report would have to be that we do a workshop that actually talk about what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Because if what we're trying to accomplish is making facilities that are not feasible right now in their current model feasible, you may want to really think hard about that, about what those steps are. So you should take cautious steps into this and have really wholesome discussions. Do not think that this is a one meeting topic. You need to go in eyes really wide open on what you're committing to or what your partners think you're committing to.
Okay, so that gives everybody a heads up what's involved. And the recommendation is to direct staff to write a report. And would you be able to bring the report back to the February meeting, or would you want it at a later meeting date?
Well, since I'm retiring on February 27th, another meeting date would be great. But in all honesty, we're under the gun to get multiple $million capital plans done, and I'm not sure. So what I will say is that I will try. Craig, Tricia, and I will discuss in our strategic meeting to see if we think there's a way to accomplish that. But it's not. I really want to emphasize, like, what I can do is outline it. Catherine, we're going to have to work closely with you to try to understand because the resolution right now doesn't provide us any parameters or anything like that of what we're actually discussing. So we'll have to get some information.
So the recommendation could be as simple as to schedule a workshop.
Yeah.
To get to flesh out more information.
So I think making this recommendation is good because it then enables that scheduling of the workshop. This recommendation gives us, like, this is what the goal is. The workshop is just one of the tools to get to that goal.
Yeah. If I may,
So
Mayor Casely wants to speak to that as well, and then I'd love to comment as well.
Yeah, Leonard.
Go ahead, Leo. It's okay.
Okay, who's next?
Don't matter.
Okay, I'll take it. since I made the motion and we have the second, I would suggest, Joe, that you feel free to work with our CAO, Catherine Alloway, on this because she has more of the details about what we would be looking for. And she can be the conduit between myself, the alternate director, the rest of council, and you.
Okay, Leonard?
Yeah, Joe, that was actually you got part of my question is how do we lump all this stuff together instead of having a whole bunch of individual ones? Because that's crazy for you guys also. But it also triggered a question in the fact that I get the arena in S229, but the gallery, what would be the difference of the library falling in that particular same category?
Through the chair, I think, so recreation is a really broad word. Like recreation, in its truest form means all of those things. The difference with the library, though, the library has specific legislation for libraries. And I think that gets really complicated in this service. I would suggest that a library, because it has, and Colin, is this a partnership with Nakusp? We haven't had, sorry, because the question is here, Director Popoff, could I ask Councillor Moss just a question?
Go ahead. His report's coming up next. We have to postpone you because you dropped off, Colin. So can you respond to his question?
So Colin, is the idea that this is a completely separate library, like a municipal library of New Denver, or that it's an extension of the Nakusp? I'm just trying to understand the strategic goal of where we're trying to go with the library.
Yeah, this is a very long, complicated issue that we've been dealing with for 2.5 years. It brings into the whole Public Library Association mess and everything. But no, we're not an official library. We've been advised by senior provincial library staff to form some type of a service agreement with Nakusp, which we're working on, but the senior library provincial staff can't tell us what a service agreement looks like. They can't give us a model. They say basically whatever you come up with is fine. So basically we want to just go on our own. That's the volunteers have just formed the Slocan Lake Community Library Society that ideally, a North Slocan library service, because our members and volunteers come from RDCK Area 8, Silverton, and New Denver. So in effect, it's a North Slocan library service we're hoping for. Whether that can go through this newly formed society or the Village of New Denver, we're not sure, because most of the service asks would be to pay for the present library operating space costs, plus a few library services like, buying new books and seniors programs, kids programs, that type of thing. So it'd be a very low ask of the taxpayer. But Nakusp really isn't interested in taking us on as part of their library. The most we'll work with them on is working to find a way to provide some of our members who want it access to the BC One Card library system and ebooks. And we're working with them now on some type of a loose arrangement that if that's our service agreement, then that's fine, because senior provincial library staff says a service agreement will be whatever we come up with. So I guess that'll be it.
So what we'll do, Colin, is we'll wait for your presentation. I think you've answered the question that Joe was seeking for or whatever, and we'll go forward to mix in the library with what's being requested by Silverton we'll have to wait until we hear his presentation, and then you'll make a decision whether to mix it in with the rest of their request. So we'll deal with the item that's in front of us. Do we have any other speakers on that? And the direction that was given by Director Main was to work with the CAO from Silverton on the response. Is that okay with you, Joe?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor, and then the motion as in the agenda, and I'll call for a vote on it. All in favor? Jessica?
Oh, sorry, Jessica had
She had to log off.
And I forgot, I was about to mention the Jenna to make sure that she saw
So
that.
we still have a quorum.
Yes.
It's moved, second, and carried.
Yeah, and Walter, I have to go at 9:30, so.
And who is that?
My thank you to everyone for entertaining that request.
Okay, so how about if we postpone, Colin, we have a request to the regional district to basically do an assessment on the library. How about we postpone your presentation till the next meeting, because we've got a lot more to cover here before everybody leaves, and we'll be losing our quorum.
No, I understand. Fair enough.
Okay. So we'll move the presentation from Colin. Where are we? Slocan Valley. A motion to defer to the next meeting. Moved. Seconded. All in favor? Okay, defer to the next meeting. And that is the service case analysis for the New Denver Library, because we've already got an agenda and it's in the queue with the regional district. It has been approved by the board. So, and your presentation is deferred till the next meeting. So we're going to item 7.3, Slocan Valley Economic Development Partnership, page 51. And that is for information purposes only. Any discussion on that? Seeing no discussion.
I have a question, Walter. I have a question. Quick question. Yes. I just had a question on that one. It says on there that they're going to support the Village of Silverton's gallery and memorial hall. I'm just curious as to what their intentions were, and I'm also wondering if these meetings will start to be public. I know Silverton's part of it, but that meeting wasn't a public meeting, so I'm just curious if the rest of them will be a public meeting.
No, they're operational meetings. They're not open to the public. It's basically working on the agreement that the two villages and area each has with the Community Futures. And this is a report on what action is going to be taken to provide you information from that meeting that was, your director was part of that meeting.
Yeah, okay, so just to confirm then, the committee that was made for economic development is no longer that committee. You're going to be changing bylaws on that one?
No, we still have the Committee for Economic Development. That's there. This is to do with the partnership agreement that we have with Community Futures.
Community Futures. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay, I hope that clarifies that. Okay, so that was there for information purposes. Item 7.4, amendment to committee bylaw. We're to discuss bylaw 2242 to include an annual rotation of chair responsibilities amongst area directors. During our agenda prep meeting, we've discussed that, and a recommendation to the board to direct staff to prepare an amendment or an appendix to bylaw 2242 for Sub-Regional Services Committee bylaw, that the chair of the Slocan Valley Services Committee be done on a yearly rotation basis amongst the members. Now, generally, we get elected for a 4-year term, so that gives everybody an opportunity to chair the Slocan Valley Services Committee rather than electing a chair, and the chair could chair, if elected, could do it for all 4 years. The intent of this is to give everybody an opportunity to chair the Slocan Valley Services Committee meeting and get more familiar with the regional district process. So I'm asking for a mover of that recommendation.
So moved.
A move by Director Main, a seconded. Director Casely. Discussion on it. Seeing no further discussion, or go ahead, Director Casely, if you want
I was just trying to hurry up. That's all.
to.
Come on.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So, and that's the, most of this has to be worded as a recommendation to the board. So if we can have that reflected in the minutes, recommendation to the board that the board directs staff, et cetera, et cetera. So item 7.5, committee report dated November 18th from Kerry Gaynor regarding the Galena Trail Replacement Project Financial Plan Amendment has been received. So we need a mover and a seconder on that recommendation. Moved, seconded, and we'll read that the board approve an amendment to the 2025 financial plan for Area H, New Denver, Silverton, and Slocan Park Service 203 Galena Trail Bridge Replacement Project to increase the grants revenue by $17,500, increase transfer from reserves by $16,672, and increase capital expenditures by $34,172. Recommendation to the board that the board approve.
Aye.
It's been moved, seconded, and now a vote. All in favor? Carried. Am I moving too fast or I'm getting lost here? Okay, potential Slocan Valley Services Committee meetings dates that at agenda prep, we agreed on the dates. The only date that I'd like to change is the May 28th date to May 27th, if we're all in agreement on that. Leonard, are you okay with the May 27th date?
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Okay, and Leah?
Sure.
And Jessica, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here and back.
And you're okay with that?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, a motion to schedule those dates?
Moved.
Moved, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, now going back to public time. So, and that'll be item number 9. I'm calling for public. Anybody on the public there wants to unmute and ask a question? Going twice. Anybody in the public wants to unmute and ask a question? Okay, and the call was 9:23 p.m. No questions from the public. So item number 10, the next meeting of the Slocan Valley Services Committee is scheduled for February 26, 2026, 7 p.m.
Just for you, Joe.
Isn't that funny? That's what I was laughing.
If there are no other items, I would call for a motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded. All in favor? Carried. And my apologies to Colin about not including you. We'll have, it's been referred to the next meeting. You'll have the opportunity to do your presentation at the next meeting.
No problem. My fault for keeping dropping off.
Okay, well, thank you and good night, everybody, and thanks for participating.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks all.
Have a good evening.
Okay, Jenna, I believe you've.
Oh, we're still here.
I see Jenna is still there. So any help with the minutes or whatever, just send me an email or call me.
Yep, no problem. The only thing that we missed, Director Popoff, was at the end, you wanted to add in the previous meeting notes.
Oh. Okay, well, yeah, you have, yeah, it has been done in the past.
Yes. Yeah, no problem. That's just something that I missed on this particular agenda, but we certainly can make sure that I make a note that it's on the next agendas going forward.
Yeah, if you can do that for the next agenda going forward, add the meeting notes.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay,
No.
and I'm gone.
Okay.
Okay, thanks
Thank
everybody.
You. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Okay, Jenna, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna, these are pretty much done, but I'll finish them in the morning.
How mad is Dan at me?
He's not mad.
Okay.
He's good.
All right.
Okay, so do you need anything?
No, we'll catch up tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be in the office tomorrow.
Okay, great. Like, nice to see you then.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, bye. Why is it not closing the whole meeting?
I can do it. Sorry.
Oh, okay, perfect.